Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Community of Citrus Heights. My name is Kristi Matal, and I'm honored to provide music today with the wonderful Reverend Carla. And we'd like to start with our opening song called Stand. And I know we have some visitors joining us today, so I just wanted to share that the words are, let there be peace, I am a stand for peace, love, I am a stand for love, let there be joy, I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace, I am a stand for peace. Let there be love, I am a stand for love. Let there be joy, I stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace, I am a stand for peace. Let there be love, I am a stand for love. Let there be joy, I am a stand for joy. I'm making a new world now. Let there be peace, I am a stand for peace. Let there be love, I am a stand for love. Let there be joy, I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now.
Thank you, Kristi, and good morning, everyone. Again, we welcome you. Unity Spiritual Community is a place where all people are welcome and where differences are celebrated as the splendor of God's creative expression. I am the Reverend Carla Comiter, and we are honored to have Kristi Matal as our musician today. God bless you, Kristi. It is Father's Day, and we are going to begin our service by sharing the daily word. Today is Sunday, June 21st, 2020, and the words for today are Father's blessing. I give thanks for all expressions of fatherly love. I give thanks for all expressions of fatherly love. My relationship with my father may have been positive and nurturing, or difficult and challenging. He may have been a strong presence during my childhood, or he may have been absent. We may be part of each other's lives today. We may be estranged, or he may have passed from this earthly life. Whatever our circumstances, I bless my Father, and I see him enfolded in divine love. As I honor my father, I also honor all the father figures who have helped guide me along my path. Family members, teachers, neighbors, clergy, employers, and friends. I bless them as I recall all the ways each one, in a unique way, has modeled strength, guidance, and wisdom, and patience. Their presence remains with me, thanks to the gifts of their fatherly love. The scripture for today is from Proverbs chapter 4, verse 11. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the paths of uprightness. And today is Father's Day, and the words are Father's blessing. So I wanted to share a poem with you. It's one that I truly love, and there are very few occasions in our divine feminine centered movement these days in which this is an appropriate poem, but it is awesome. It is If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream, but not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So to all of the fathers, all of the sons, and all of the men in our lives, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we wish you a happy Father's Day. And so it is. Amen. And now we welcome Kristi Matal back to sing a song about our Father's world.
This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings and around me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's word. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees and skies and seas. His hands the wonders wrought. This is my Father's word. The birds their carols raise, the morning light and the lily white declare the Maker's praise. This is my Father's word. It shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass I hear him pass. God speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's word. Oh, let me never forget that all the wrong seems all so strong. God is the way shower yet. This is my Father's word. How could my heart be sad? For love is king, let the heavens ring. God is within all our glad. This is my Father's word. This is my Father's word.
Thank you, Kristi. Thank you so much. And now we take a moment to bless our prayer requests, both those which we have shared with others and those that we hold silently in our hearts. We see each person and every situation for which we pray surrounded with love and divine order. As we breathe, we release our tension and fear and affirm that all is well. Finding comfort in the presence of God, we greet each new day with the assurance of health, safety, and abundance for all. And so it is. Amen. Let us prepare for a time of meditation. And as we allow ourselves to relax more deeply and to breathe more deeply, we settle into this time of meditation. Mentally scan your body and direct your breath, your holy breath, to any areas of stress or discomfort, releasing them onto the wings of light, which are now brushing your body. Breathe again and allow yourself to release the chatter of your thoughts and to sink further into a state of peace and comfort. Remember a time when you were home. Remember the feeling of finding your place set at the table, waiting for you to fill it. Remember the feeling of being loved and of belonging, of accepting and appreciating others wherever they may be on their journey, of having the assurance of being loved and accepted wherever your journey may lead. As you rest in the midst of your companions, you're soothed by their presence, their human warmth and steadfast vision. It is okay to let go. You are safe. You are loved. You are never alone. We left our true home when we ventured into the earth, yet still it awaits us. Though we may wander afar, we are never forgotten. And there is a place within us that has always remembered our home. We anticipate the time of reunion, the time of homecoming, knowing the joy that awaits each of us as we rediscover our oneness and the perfection of our love. Let us rest for a few moments in the silence as we bask in the sweetness of our eternal home. We return our awareness to our earthbound state, knowing we perform a mighty work here among the other manifestations of God's love. We are whole. We are complete. We are peace. We are love, now and forevermore. Amen.
We honor you, we love you. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. learn from your wise ways. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor your yesterdays and learn from your wise ways. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor your yesterdays and learn from your wise ways. We honor you, we bless you, we love you. We honor you, we bless you, we love you.
Thank you, Kristi. Thank you so much. I wanted to begin today's talk by sharing a story about my dog, Bailey. Bailey, like many dogs, suffers from separation anxiety. He won't eat if I'm not home. I've had dog sitters when I was away on a trip tell me that he went 3 days without eating anything. And even if I'm just gone a short while, he will not leave the front door where he waits for me to return. I had a little talk with Bailey, and I told him, even when you don't know where I am, I know where you are. Even when you forgot that Mommy was just going to the store, Mommy never forgot that you were safe at home. Even when you believe that you have been abandoned, I know that you are safe, you have shelter and food, and that you and I are never truly separated. The appearance of separation exists only in your fear, only in your forgetting. We too, as humans, are suffering from separation anxiety, and it exists only in our fear and only in our forgetting. Through the years since the beginning of all things, we used our free will to create this illusion of separation. And we became the separated ones. We forgot that in which we abide and that which abides in us. The world indeed became a very scary place, and we began to feel that we had been abandoned. Look at your own life. Look into your own heart. Remember the things you worry about when you awaken at 3 a.m. and cannot get back to sleep. We have forgotten where God is, but God has never forgotten where we are. And despite the scariness of the illusion that we have created, God knows that we are safe, that we have shelter and food, and that we have never truly been separated from God's love. In Unity Metaphysics, we speak of several divine paradoxes. A simple one is that God is both masculine and feminine. Another one that we give a lot of attention to is that God is both immanent and transcendent. The word immanent means indwelling, and transcendent means otherworldly. God exists both within us and outside of us. So I would ask then, what about Jesus? There is a similar definition associated with Jesus Christ. Think about the nativity stories that you have read in Matthew and Luke about a stable and a star and some shepherds. And then listen to this nativity story from the first verse and first chapter of the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. This is the description of the Christ. The other nativity stories that we shared from Matthew and Luke are descriptions of Jesus. The Christ is that aspect of the divine from which the world is birthed. The light of the world, the light that causes all beings and all things to spring forth into being. The Christ that abides in each of us as we abide in it. Jesus was the aspect of the divine that was born into human form. He was born into human form to serve as our way shower and our elder brother. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. He's sometimes called the man from Nazareth. I was not raised in a church-going family. I was not taught that there's a higher purpose to my existence. I did not know that my every decision, my every thought had import and impact upon the world. I did not know how to weigh the things that happened in my life or how to decide the best way to respond to them. In the summer of 1988, I met a man named Bill. This was the summer that my alcoholic drinking was hitting a bottom. This was the last summer I ever drank also. And I met Bill in a bar, of course. Bill had 7 children. And when he took me out to dinner, I noticed that he prayed before each meal. It was just a little silent thing. He was Catholic. I don't know if he actually crossed himself. He may have. He worked as a general contractor, and he told me that every morning he made the list of things he needed to do that day, and then he went into prayer and gave the list to God. I was at his house one time when his youngest child, Joseph, who was 15 and living with him, wanted to skip a church class so that he could go to a party, and Bill would not let him. Bill said, your spiritual life comes first. This was shocking. This is revelatory to me, that anybody would have that value of a spiritual life and to teach their children the same values. Bill ended up referring me to a drug and alcohol specialist, and I went to treatment. He showed such kindness to me. He came to visit me when I was in treatment. And when I got out during the holiday season, he gave me tickets to go see Handel's Messiah so that I would have things to do that did not involve alcohol, and it would make it easier for me to stay sober. He was a kind man. Bill's way of living seemed so strange to me. He was struggling with the same issues that so many of us struggle with. He was overweight. He drank too much. He was a divorced man, even though he was Catholic. Yet his relationship with God was the warp upon which was woven the fabric of his life. His relationship with God was the warp upon which was woven the fabric of his life. So what would that feel like? What would it feel like to know that God or Jesus was your constant companion? What if God, enthroned in humankind as Jesus, was closer to you than your own hand? Many folks come to Unity looking for a different understanding of God than the one that they learned in their childhood churches. And a lot of people can be leery about Jesus and the Bible. So rest assured that Unity does not teach of a condemning God, or that humans are wretches, or that Jesus must be worshiped in order to avoid eternal damnation. But I think that we gave up a lot because of our fear of what we had been taught before. If we refuse to learn about Jesus, then we are throwing the baby out with the bathwater, literally. I was one of the people who found talking about Jesus to be scary when I first came to Unity. By the time I was in my 20s, in some strange way, by the time I was 17, I knew I was going to be a minister. And that was even stranger because I had never known a woman minister, and I had never been to a church that I agreed with. And when I was in my early 20s in Springfield, Illinois, I heard of a church that had a woman minister. And it was what they call a Foursquare gospel church. I went with one of my brothers, and this particular brother had been saved and was an evangelical Christian. He was thrilled to go with me. At this church, they had an altar call, and it was fashioned to rouse up the congregation. I'll always remember the church leaders up on the platform saying, "Do you want to go to heaven or do you want to go to hell? And just when were you going to decide?" And I got caught up in the motion of the moment, and I went up to the altar. After the service, in the parking lot, on the way to the car, I realized what I had done, that this particular church, this particular interpretation of Christianity would never work for me. And I was a little embarrassed. My brother was so happy that he thought I had been saved. And I had to break the news to him that I had already changed my mind, and that didn't make him happy either. So when you come to Unity, if you've had experiences in the past that made you not trust church or made you not trust yourself or your responses to church, it's no wonder that there are certain teachings you just don't want to get too close to. 25 years later, I was in Unity Ministerial School, and I'd had some mystical experiences. I had even experienced the divine presence of Jesus a couple of times. In the first year of ministerial school, as I shared in a talk on the divine feminine a couple of weeks ago, I had an awakening of the divine feminine. The second year of ministerial school, I realized that I had signed up to be a Christian minister and that I was not a Christian. And I knew this had to be remedied, that I somehow had to come to terms with this. And much like the previous year when I asked in prayer to be shown the feminine side of God, I knew that I had to develop an intimate, personal connection with Jesus, the human side of God. Asking Jesus for a relationship was terrifying, but it had to be done. You know, there's something safe and impersonal impersonal about the teachings of the Christ within. We teach of the Christ as the omnipresent spirit that enlivens all things, which is different from the teachings about Jesus, who is a man who knows you and knows your heart. We use affirmative prayer, and it's about the power of mind action, and that too is a little impersonal. There is a safety in it, but there is something vulnerable and revealing about asking for a personal relationship with Jesus who had been a man, who walked the earth, who knew my heart. Answering my personal altar call led to months of deep awakening and many, many synchronicities. Many things just blew open wide. My understanding expanded. I developed new, deeper understandings of the Bible and of traditional Christian teachings. And as always, no matter which path I was on, at the end of the road, there was Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity movement, waiting for me to catch up. Whither you goest, he has gone. Even today, when I'm willing to turn my attention to Jesus, the awakening continues, the synchronicities continue, the openings, the surprises, the seeming messages from the beyond happen. Yesterday, I was writing this talk, and I had Pandora radio on my television. And the song that was playing was Paul Horn, Inside the Great Pyramid. And I looked up at it, it was beautiful, and I saw in the caption below that it was based on Psalm 5, on the 5th Psalm. And I thought, well, I'm just going to look up Psalm 5. And I got out my Bible and I read it and found one line in it that reads this way: "In the morning you hear my voice." It's God speaking. It's God speaking to humans. In the morning you hear my voice. Well, as you may remember, my walls seem to be covered with symbols of God, because in my dining room is a church banner that I created 20 years ago at a workshop to learn how to create church banners. And I remember looking through the Bible that day for a phrase that I wanted to put on my Bible, on my banner. And the one I chose was, "In the morning, you hear my voice." I didn't remember 20 years later that it was from Psalm 5. So here I am writing this talk about awakening and seeing this on the TV and looking it up in the Bible and finding this passage and looking up on my wall, and there it is, and always has been, and a very meaningful passage to me. So I Googled Paul Horn in the Great Pyramid, and the word it associated with that passage of his music was initiation. What are you going to do? He's everywhere. There's nowhere he is not. All you need to do is look and open up. One of the biggest changes in my relationship with Jesus is practicing petitioning and supplicating prayer, not just affirmative prayer. Unity teaches a lot of affirmative prayer, and I don't disagree with that. It supports the law of mind action. It's a way of focusing our intent on the creative power of our thoughts. But I believe that other forms of prayer don't get as much attention. Petitioning prayer is asking Jesus or God to intercede on the behalf of another. I said a petitioning prayer recently about one of my cats who is deaf and needs medical attention, and I prayed for this cat. I prayed for intercession in knowing what to do to help her. Now, Supplication. Supplication is a word that sounds a little like something that needs a bandage. But supplication is asking for yourself, praying to Jesus or to God for something you need, something you want. And the main thing I ask for is understanding. I pray to understand what is going on and why it's going on. Like Solomon, when God said he would grant any request that Solomon had, Solomon asked for an understanding heart, and all else was given to him as well. I have also asked Jesus how to minister to our congregation and to the world in this time of Corona. The reply is always the same. Continue practicing and teaching unity principles. Unity teaches big T truth. This is also called divine principles or the laws of God. Big T truth is unchanging and eternal. And unity's basic principles have not changed. Unity's basic principles are: there is only God, and God is only good. Humans are made of God's stuff. Humans are divine. Thought has creative power and can be directed with intent. Each person has a direct connection with the Creator, and prayer and meditation are how we use that connection. And finally, living in accord with these principles will change us and our world at depth. So, how did Jesus tell us how to live so that we remember what we are, so that our reactions are congruent with the truth of us? He told us to turn the other cheek, to share with the needy, to trust God for our support, and to have compassion for those who suffer. He also said, ask and you shall receive. Knock and it will be opened to you. Seek and you shall find. So in closing, whether you choose to connect with God or with the Christ within or with Jesus, and you could add a lot of other names for the divine to this list, the most important thing to remember is that you are essential to the wholeness of creation, that your decisions and reactions reflect your awareness, that you abide in God and God abides in you. Your values are important. And finally, in the dark night of your soul, when you cannot remember where to find God, know that God has always known where to find you. And thus ends the lesson. God bless you all. Now we invite Kristi back for another song.
Holy God, me. Holy God, move in me. That you may know my faith, and I may know your grace. Holy God, move in me. Presence lift me. I see. I'm powerful beyond measure, with an awesome God moving through me. Oh, holy presence live as me. Holy presence live as me. May I be an open vessel, a channel of your dreams. Holy presence live as me. And I put my faith in action. Know you're good in all I see. I'm powerful beyond measure, with an awesome God moving through me. Oh, holy God moving me. Ooh, holy God moving me. That you may know my faith, and I may know your grace. Holy God, move in me. Yes, holy presence live as me. Holy God, move in me.
Thank you, Kristi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We want to take a moment to thank everybody for your continued support, both in your love, your presence, and your love offerings. So let us bless those offerings that have come in during the week, doing that divine love flowing through us, blesses and multiplies all that we are, all that we have, all that we are willing to give, and all that we are open to receive. We say thank you, God. Amen. You may donate to Unity Spiritual Community on our website, which is unitycitrusheights.org. There's a donate button that'll lead you to PayPal. Or you could write a check and mail it to P.O. Box 2176 in Citrus Heights, 95611. And so we affirm that Unity Spiritual Community is a center of the Christ love, mighty to attract good and to radiate good to others. And so it is. Amen. We have a few announcements this morning. The first is that we would like to thank Kristi Matal for being our guest musician today. She has volunteered her time donating the love offering we would normally give to her back to the church. We do appreciate that, and we appreciate you sharing your gifts with us. Thank you, Kristi. We are
My pleasure. Thank you.
Our Lenten quarter drive. It has expanded into a spare change collection that we are encouraging people to establish a place like I have to put your spare change in until we are together again in person. And when that time comes, we will collect all of the change and decide what we are going to do. It reflects back to this saying we just said, that we are mighty to attract our good and to radiate good to others. This little church has radiated good throughout the entire world and continues to do so as year after year. We buy microloans, we make them renewing, and we're supporting little communities who are establishing businesses and making their ways of life better throughout the United States and the world. we are connected. We are connected in love and in spirit. So we encourage you to participate in this wonderful connection also. We had a board meeting this week, and Brian, who is with us right here, shared a protocol for when we reopen and have in-person services at the community center. It's a draft version because we need to get the guidelines from the community center when they decide to open, and also make our own decision about when we will open. But I do want to share with you that with his engineering gifts and his mind for detail, Brian just nailed it. It is simple, it is effective, it is compliant, it is easy to follow. We've got written procedures, we've got a map of the room where people are going to sit. It was such a relief because of the pages and pages and pages of information we've received from the government and from Unity headquarters is just overwhelming. And Brian put it all together specifically for our situation. It is going to be doable and it is going to be easy. So I wanted to share that with you. We're not going to send out this protocol because we're still open for modifications once the city of Citrus Heights tells us their requirements for meeting at the community center again. But thank you, Brian. Next week's talk, somebody's happy about it. Next week's talk is called The Eye of the Needle, and it is based on what was shared during a recent workshop presented by Bashar the Sassani. And if you are not familiar with Bashar, he is an interdimensional being from thousands of miles away from our planet and a couple of thousand years in our future. He has been in contact through Daryl Anka since the late 1990s, I would say. And so this is going to be, from his perspective, what is going on in the time of Corona and the broader implications of it, where it fits into the ginormous picture of the evolution of the human species as we move into our time of ascension, and some of the astronomical aspects of the alignment of our planets. So, as always, when Bashar boils things down to simple steps, they're the same steps you're going to read in Unity, which I love. I absolutely love. You know, truth is truth. When we talk about big T truth being eternal and unchanging, it is also universal. And I see the same simple principles reflected everywhere I look. It makes me love Unity all the more and believe in our founders. It also gives me a way of evaluating the teachings I get from far afield. This is going to be the Eye of the Needle, teachings from Bashar the Sassani to help us through this time of Corona. That is going to be the talk next week. The week after that, I think I'm going to talk about the Holy Spirit, but I'm not going to commit to that yet. Okay. You know, we have kept things very simple in the 3 months that we've been doing our online services. But as far as we can tell, we may be doing them for 3 more months. That's what Bashar says anyhow. And we think it might be time to add some other events, maybe a midweek event, maybe a special event or workshop. And so we're asking you to let us know what would be interesting to you. Our church email address is info@unitycitrusheights.org. You can always go to our website and find that email address. You can email us your ideas for what you would like us to offer. Lisa can offer various musical sound healing events. I can offer classes, workshops, I can lead meditations. So please get involved and let us know how we could expand our offerings and make this a more complete and enriching experience for you while we are still in lockdown. We would appreciate your input. And as always, after we ask Kristi to lead us in the peace song, we will leave the session, the Zoom session, open for a while. And those of you who can stay on and chat with us will have a time of check-in and seeing how everybody's doing. We do invite you to stay for that. So, Kristi, would you like to take us home?
Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, and let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all agree, and let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. And with every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now for our prayer of protection, we know that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. God bless you all. Have a wonderful week.
Got a good thing going on around here. We've got a good thing going on around here. Well, you can see it on and every face. There's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. We got a good thing going on around here. We got a good thing